You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well. How are you doing today, Mr. Clay? Yes, yeah. It's. I think it's just a beautiful day, and the fact that you're still above ground, you should be thankful for that. A lot of people don't have that luxury, especially the family members who are stuck with their loved ones, and then we have to just rely on memories. And so, appreciate each and every day. That's what it's all about. Yeah. We'll look at it like this. You and Donald Trump have a few things in common now. You're both convicted felons, and you both are pleading for your innocence. And I know there's a lot of criticism about them attacking the justice system, but let's face it, the justice system, as good as it is, there's people in there that tend to kind of twist it, and you being there and incarcerated, and me being able to talk to a lot of folks like you and in your situation, we know that not everybody in prison is guilty. And there are even people that have been executed and found not to be guilty. Look at way back in the day when Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. Later on, they come around and say, "Oh, no, she was, she's exonerated." And to say that the justice system is perfect and we must accept everything, and that when people get out and criticize it is wrong, it really, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And if you keep denying that there's any wrong going on in there, even if it's just a small thing, then you're never going to be able to fix it. And as a prison reformist, I definitely want to make the system better. And I'm not going to go around saying that the penal system is perfect, the justice system is perfect, law enforcement is perfect. Yeah, that's right. The people factor, that's what makes the difference. People are the ones that can make the mistakes, and people are the ones that can also fix it. They can make the change. Oh, good. Yeah, I've been hearing some stuff about the law library, so hopefully you'll be able to take full advantage. Yeah, good. The main thing is just to keep everything going. Don't settle for the little cubby holes and closets and dark places. Get out in the open, shout and bang your drum. And that's what I've been emphasizing for the longest time. Everything needs to be checked. We need check and balances for any government agency. There's nothing that should just be ignored. And there's so many times that a person will be sentenced to prison and go away, and then we don't hear anything unless the person commits suicide or is murdered or attacked, or there's
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Maybe getting out on parole or probation. And there's and that we should hear about when they're in there, so that we can do something. If the people are having some problems, we can criticize them, saying you're in prison, you committed a crime, but there's certain things that's expected in a prison. They are expected to get quality medical care.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
And clothing, sleeping quarters. They shouldn't be in overcrowded places. And I've seen some reports where people are being released early because of the overcrowding, and that could pose a danger to the community. Well, good. I'm glad you're going to keep on top of that. We need inside people, so just keep speaking out. And remember, you're not alone. You know, you got a former president now.
Thank you for using inmate call. Goodbye.
Hello, and welcome to AQS Inmate Call, and I'm your host, Joel Wilborn. And in this episode, I'd like to discuss something that's in recent news, and that's a little discrimination issue that it's a word that's not used very often, but it's felonist. And a felonist is someone who is against felons. And I hear about it practically every day. There's people on the outs that say that convicted felons shouldn't be allowed to run for office or have a license, be around kids, work in certain industries. It's just a big, you committed this crime and so you're going to have to stay in this bubble for the rest of your life. Now, as a prison reformist, I want the prisons to treat people fair, because even though you'll hear on social media and probably amongst coworkers or something that criminals, when they commit the crime, they know what they're getting into, they know the risks, and going to prison, if it's cold or hot or there's vermin running around, if there's very unsanitary conditions in there, then there's a lot of people in the public that say, oh, well, so what? Well, while we're focusing on banning weapons and banning books and giving a little more freedom to children, the real issue is the individual, because no crime can be, the motivation can be attributed to everybody who commits it. Not all people commit murder for the same reason. Not all people commit fraud or auto theft for the same reason. If that was the case, we could just concentrate on the reason. But in order to solve a problem, you have to identify it. And in Europe, they sit down with the criminals and they talk to the people. Imagine seeing a report of a EMT or somebody in law enforcement or even a neighbor who helps talk a person off of a bridge who's trying to jump off and commit suicide. The person has whatever reason to jump off that bridge. The hard part is convincing this person not to do it, because outside factors play little to no role in a person's reason to commit suicide. That's something that's within their mind, that's personal, completely 100% personal for them. They're the ones that have to say, okay, I've decided not to. Sometimes what they're thinking, suicide is the only reason or the only way to solve my issue, it's because they don't know of other issues. And if not other issues, but other avenues. And so if we're working with our friends and family and loved ones, and we're letting them know that as bad as things get in life, suicide is the wrong option. You can't condemn it or criticize them for it, but suicide is just one solution to the problem. There are many different solutions, and hopefully, if a person is just bound and determined to commit suicide, maybe they have a terminal illness, and they just don't like getting up every morning, and they want to die quickly. And if that's the case, we could offer all kinds of things to tell them not to do this, and they want to extend their life as long as they can, and maybe love their family. But in their mind, they could just be convinced that this is the only way to do this. It doesn't mean we don't try. As a matter of fact, we should try to give them other options, to show them that we care, and talk to suicide professionals out there, people that help prevent suicides, and psychologists and psychiatrists. That's everything. There's a lot of resources that we can use. But we just need to make sure that the individual feels that they matter, that their decision is important. And suicide is something that we should not take lightly. There's people that go to prison, and there's a lot of trauma. Believe it or not, there's people that go to prison who actually feel guilty about the crime. There's those who go to prison who are not guilty of the crime. Maybe they're accused of rape, and the person just made this stuff up because of a fight or some disagreement or jealousy or something. And this person is sitting in there for years with trying to maintain innocence, but nobody's listening. And maybe, that's enough to lead the person to suicide. And there's the trauma of guilt. There's the trauma of innocence and nobody's listening. The trauma of having freedom taken away. And that's pretty much every incarcerated person. Even those who are habitual don't like being locked away from society. They can't look at, we're complaining about maybe the price of gas, and they would love to be sitting out here complaining about the price of gas, but gas means nothing to them locked up. And food, it's affecting the prison system, and so that's traumatic for them. There's people who like to maybe eat a pickle before going to bed, or have a hard-cooked egg in the morning. And this causes trauma because that's gone. Or working with people they just don't like. I know I was talking to a person in prison who said she was going through some issues with a person who wasn't what she had imagined her to be. She'd been one way for a long time, and then she changes, and so she's putting on this fake persona. And I was saying, is there anything I can do to help? And she said, I don't know, I'll deal with it. And I hear a lot about this drama. And you can watch some shows, TV shows that are based on true life or maybe documentaries, and you can see some of the crazy stuff that goes on there. A lot of the stuff goes in prison, and the same thing goes on out here. And if it's a reason out here to cause a person to want to lash out, it could be the same thing in there. And so we sit down and we talk with these people. Are you suicidal? How do you feel about this? What's the hardest part about being in this prison? And those who are admitting the crime and feeling they're going to just sit and let it extend its course and then get out in the end, you want to ask them, why did they commit the crime? Motive is a really big thing. People won't commit a crime without a motive, because that's like the wild animals. A tiger sees a gazelle and chases after it and kills it to eat it, and then whatever's left over, the scavengers go after. And that's an animal's instinct. That's their motive to do it. And a human being killing another human being for food is not a motive. And so without that motive, there's really no reason to kill another person. But humans come up with stuff. And even government, when we do the death sentence, that's killing somebody. And I really don't see anything behind that. Everybody can be rehabilitated. Everybody can change their mind. In some countries, they force it on folks, brainwash them, gaslighting people. And that's an extreme way of getting people to comply. But in the United States, we have that option of free choice on many cases. And we want to understand, why did the person choose to break the law? I know there's many cases where a man will rape a woman and then kill her to avoid going to prison. And I'll say the same thing a lot of other people out there say. You know the risks when you commit a crime. And they know that raping a person, there's a possibility they could go to prison for rape. They know that. Killing a person doesn't change anything. It just creates a new crime. You got rape and you have murder, and you could be in prison for a very long time. The one thing they're trying to avoid. Like one officer said, he chose to go to prison for murder rather than rape. And there's people that kill to get out of a legal obligation, like maybe alimony or child support, or pay off a settlement or judgment or something. And these folks who do this thing and it's just for selfish reasons, we need to try to let them know that that's not the way we work in society. There's a community. If you want to be alone, if you don't want to participate in family or community affairs, then find yourself a nice little cubby hole and stay there. There's a lot of hermits out there that just stay away. I like to stay away from people. And these people that just don't like other people, maybe something in their history, maybe something in their current state forced them into that. We have to talk to them to find out what's going on. In Europe, they do that. They work for solutions. They give the person options and maybe examples or something, and then people are not going back to prison. When you have a criminal locked away, that's the ones you can work on and help. These are correctional centers, most of them. And so to help these people get back into society, we need to work with them and let them know that they have the power to stay away from the crime, and that crime isn't the best option. And this has been proven. It works. You can eliminate every weapon in the country, but somebody's going to find a way to kill another person if they're motivated enough. And if you think, well, I'm going to take away all these weapons and not do anything else, they're still in their mind thinking, my neighbor has to die. I am going to kill my neighbor. And blow up the home, or build a weapon that fires projectiles, or maybe kidnap the person, cut them up or something. In this person's mind, they're going to just use whatever's available. Criminals aren't dumb, and they're not going to follow the law. So if they can get a weapon, like a automatic weapon, they'll do that. And murder has been around for centuries, and it's pretty much like the first major crime or something. So don't think you can get rid of murder in people, or eliminate murder, but you can certainly cut it back seriously. And since there's a few people who are repeat offenders, like the drug people, or the maybe people who are gang members, or they are thieves and they're constantly going to prison for these things, those folks we can work with. We have them in our custody. We can just drain their mind, just find out what goes on in there. And the more people talk to folks like this, the more educated they will to help other folks, and then we can get it to law enforcement. So when people go to arrest somebody, then they'll know, or they'll look for certain things that's going on. It's like I have this new girlfriend who's locked up. When she was arrested, they noticed needle marks all on her arm. And she said she was high. She was just addicted, and she wants to get away from that. And she's fighting for that. She's going to work with me to get away from this addiction. And she says being locked up saved her life because she's able a little better to resist the addiction. Although she can get the drugs if she needs to in the prison. Let's face it, there's nothing you really can't get in a prison. But she's motivated now. And when I talk to her and ask her questions, I'm letting her know she's a good person, and she is so thankful for that. And she'll tell me, and then she'll throw compliments at me, and it's a conversation I feel comfortable with and I enjoy. I like talking about a person's strengths, and I don't like focusing on their weaknesses. And once in a while, when she'll share something that's bothering her or something in her past, then we can talk about how that can help her, help others, how she can deal with it, what she should do, the resources that's available. And we're constructive on that. And I do that with everybody I talk to. I listen to them. I work with them because I want them to get out and not go back. And it's been very successful. There hasn't been anybody that's gone back that's really worked with me. And some people that are just constantly going into prison, and that really surprised me because they have something other than crime to fall back on. And that's my way of helping society. I'm not going to go out and promote gun control. I'm going to go out and promote psychological resources, mental wellness, and reducing long prison sentences. We have people that are in there that are serial killers, serial rapists, and they're very violent offenders, and they're going to keep on committing these crimes. When I was on the Kevin Coe jury, we determined that this guy was going to get out and continue to rape women. And so we voted to keep him in state custody and put him in a facility that can handle his mental state of mind. And I feel comfortable with that decision. And but then when we look at other folks, that won't work for them. Like my girlfriend, if we lock her up for the rest of her life, her biggest problem is her addiction. And that's going to keep her in there under state funding. We'll just keep paying for her, for the rest of her life. And then she just dies a footnote in history. And I don't think that's fair to her, and I don't think that's fair to society, and then her family too. This is a woman who wants to get out, and she wants to make something of her life, and she needs a mentor. She needs somebody to help her. The Alcoholics Anonymous, they have mentors. They have resources to help people to break that addiction. And this organization has been around for a very long time, and it's quite successful. Same thing with people who are losing weight, or people who are addicted to drugs. These type of organizations are effective. And if it saves one person or 100 people, it's successful. And I'm not going to say spending 3 years working on one person who then finally quits the addiction, I'm not going to call that a failure. And I'm not going to call it a waste of time. It's what we do. And building more prisons locking more people up, cutting back on law enforcement, that's counterproductive. We need to be proactive. We need to put the resources in the hands of the people who could use these to help folks. And when we criticize people, the felonists I'm talking about, tell them that when you get out of prison, you don't have a right to live here, you don't have a right to work at certain places, that's not helping anything. And when they were saying that Donald Trump is a felon and should never be president of the United States, why? Why is that? Because he committed a crime and he must pay for it for the rest of his life? There's very few lifelong crimes. Those who pay for the rest of their life should be in prison. They should be locked up. But if they're walking out amongst us, they paid their due. If you buy a new car and you walk down and you pay it off and you're very happy, you can't expect people to come knocking at your door asking for more money and just keep asking money for the entire time you have the car. You know, imagine driving down the road and an officer pulls you over for speeding and you get a ticket and then you pay a fine. And then people say, oh, since you were caught speeding, you can't have a commercial license. You can't live in this apartment complex. You can't work in certain industries. You need to register every time you move to a different city that you're a speeder. You know, it'd get ridiculous. It'd be more or less like, I paid my fine. Why do I have to keep paying this price? And even a habitual criminal, somebody who goes out and, steals a car and then goes to jail, gets out, steals another car, goes to jail, gets out, steals another. I know they have those 3 strikes you're out type thing, but there's something going on. Why does the person keep stealing cars? Is this a fetish? Is this something that proves manhood? It could be millions of different reasons from hundreds of different people. But the only way to find out is to talk to them. And I think it's wrong to discriminate against people who've served their time, who've already committed their crime. We need to catch them and say, there's an issue going on with you. We're going to figure out what that is, and then we're going to put you back out into society. It should be so simple. We don't need felonists running around telling folks that because you have a felony, you can't do anything anymore. And one of the social posts says, I prefer a president who can travel outside the country. And it blows my mind. They want to put limitations on people. They want to title people, give them titles. If you have limitations, and that could be like a physical handicap, work within them. Blind people don't give up on life because they can't see anything. They develop resources to get through the day. And there's people who have illnesses, and they're not necessarily chronic or anything, but maybe a person has the flu and still needs to get work done. Maybe they're sitting in their bed with their computer. You work within your limitations, and you get it done. I would rather have people who are convicted of a crime, we're paying all this money to put them in prison, and then when they get out, let them get back into society, pay taxes, and maybe go back to the prison and talk to some of the people, answer some questions, or go to some of the schools and talk to the kids, tell them what they were doing, what was going on. Maybe one of the children out there might say, yeah, I'm going through that right now. My dad has beaten my mom and I want to kill my dad, and I've been thinking of ways to do it. But after listening to this person who went to prison for killing an abusive parent, I see that there's other things I can do. But if the child does not know that, we could have another criminal on our hands, and it could cost us millions of dollars to lock this person up and basically do nothing. We're spending all this money to lock a person up, and we get nothing in return. So let's not be a felonist. Let's not discriminate against people because they had circumstances different from ours and they don't think the same way we do. Let's fix the problem. If it's a corrupt justice system, if it's a weak law enforcement, if it's discrimination in and of itself is not wrong. It just depends on how you use it. You can break the crime. Racists, fascists, neo-Nazis, that's an expression. In the United States, that's fine. And we shouldn't weaponize that, use that against people. If somebody walks out and say, I support the gay community, we shouldn't be bashing them just because they don't agree with us. That's their right. And we need to accept that. For some strange reason, we're not. I mean, I can pretty much hear the word racist every day for a week. So what? Why are we making it a big issue? Why are we making gender and ethnicity issues? We need to concentrate on things that unite us. And the prison is a great place to understand that. We want people out in society working, supporting their family, supporting themselves, paying taxes, and helping their neighbors, helping the community, volunteering. That's a good sign. And it keeps people busy. It makes people feel important. And it benefits our community. It gives us the funding that we need. It gives us the manpower, and it gives us the resources. That's how you stop crime. And I'm going to keep fighting that. I'm going to keep fighting against people who are promoting separation and who's pushing hate and spreading this discourse that it's wrong to be a racist. It's wrong to be a sexist. It's wrong to break the law. And they're not pushing that. They're not saying this racist burned down a church. They're saying this person is a racist. And that, for some reason, is the crime. Well, I thank you for listening to this podcast. And I ask that you visit the Joel Wilborn YouTube channel. There's some interviews with people from prison, and there's some little stories I put in there, like I put a story about the HPV and how that can cause cancer. And then you can even see some of the other podcasts and people complaining about the legal system. And most importantly, just talk amongst your loved ones. And watch out for the signs of suicide. Watch out for the signs of a crime. You know, somebody buying weapons or doing Google searches and internet searches on poisons and revenge. Just be aware. Don't be nosy, and don't get into a person's privacy. Just be aware of your surroundings and listen. Sometimes people just want to talk something out, and if you just take a few minutes and sit down, or maybe make a schedule with them, say, I can't talk to you right now, I'm a little busy, but let's talk about this in the morning. You know, why don't you do some reading up on it, and we'll discuss some of the things that we can do to improve your life and make things comfortable for you. It won't hurt. And like some of the commercials say, you talk to teenagers and they're rolling their eyes and they're putting their headsets on. They're listening. Oh yeah, they're definitely listening, and so don't stop. And you'll know your limit. You'll know when you're pushing it too far. And that's good, because you're a smart person. Well, go out, have yourself a magnificent day, and make fantastic memories for tomorrow.